Shalom to the elect of Israel, to the hopeful elect of Israel, you Hebrew Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, and Haitians. Got to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, the Most High, the Heavenly Father. His Hebrew name is Yahweh. Not Yahweh, not Jehovah, not God, not Elohim, not Most High, not Lord, not Yah, not Jah, not Ahai, not Allah, not Abba, not Yahuwah, not Hashem, not Yahweh, Yahweh, Vave. It's Yahweh. And his only begotten son name in the Hebrew is Yahweh Shai. Not Yahshua, not Yeshua, not Jesus Christos, not Jesus Christ, not Serapis Christos, not Yeshaya, not Yehoshua, not Yahusha, not Yeshua, not Jesus Christos. It's Yahweh Shai. So got to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rekah, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles, elder, bishop, and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, who teach well, who are the apostles and elders of all the Israel, whether accepted or not. And a sincere salutation to all that I can believe in this truth and pushing this truth with the four winds of the earth. The entire world shed light to the hopeful elect. Shalom to the art, wealth, well, listen, learning. If you sis, well, listen, learning. I'm Isaiah from GMS Orlando, Camp Prophet of Doom. Coming to another lesson in truth, facts, faith, and edification. Another day of edification, Lord willing, this be edifying. And this is copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. This is for educational purposes only. This is not for monetary gain. I do not own the copyright to this video. This is for educational purposes only. The Lord willing, be edifying. And this is a video that the big brother Ayash Moth had in his lesson from yesterday, which the guy channel is Richard J. Murphy. And it's titled, NATO's Over. Europe Must Grow Up Now. Europe must grow up now. So he's going into the confusion of DJ Trump. And I'm going to title this lesson, The Head of Confusion is the self-proclaimed so-called white man. And the reason that the earth is filled with confusion because it's a part of prophecy. It is prophecy that the world will be confused. And this is the self-proclaimed so-called white man glorifying. He has, the elites has glorified confusion because that's their lot. When you read in Genesis 3, the Lord say, "Thus shall they eat all the days of their life." So this dust is confusion. That's why I tell you in Isaiah 41, the Lord said, "Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon." Because confusion is the self-proclaimed so-called white man glorified state. So I'm going to play this and get a few precepts. Lord willing, this be edifying. And this guy also mentions, and it's heavy because these Edomites think that they can rebuild without the elites. Because, all these Edomites is, we just need to get rid of the globalists and we can rebuild by ourselves. No, man. The scripture talks about the elites. Everything that's happening is because of the elites, man. Anyway, let's listen to this.
We are living through fascism. That is the first message of this video. We are therefore living through a period of unprecedented chaos. That is the second message of this video. The US is no longer our ally, and as a result, NATO is over. That is the third message of this video. So, what happens next? Well, the first thing I've got to warn you about is that this will be a long video. I'm sorry, but we are living in a complicated era and there are a lot of things to talk about. But precisely for that reason, stick with this. This is really important. We have to work out what we're going to do, or we're in the deepest of trouble. Let's put this in context. We are living in a period of historic confusion. This may be the most confusing moment in political economic history, not just in living memory, but maybe ever, because the rate of change is so high. Events are moving faster than institutions can think. The rate of incoherence, particularly from Donald Trump, is now a political force in its own right. And that incoherence is very obviously dangerous. We must, in this context, say what is happening. There's no point pretending otherwise. Fascism is rising in the USA. There is a fascist president in that country. Democracy there is being hollowed out. Dictatorship is following. State power is being weaponized against the people of that country. This is, however, unlike the 1930s. In that decade, there was, of course, the monstrous rise of Hitler. But, curiously, what he did was predictable. He wasn't as irrational as Trump by a very long way. The sequence of escalation that Hitler followed was pre-announced and effectively entirely logical. Now, the pace is unprecedented, and unpredictability is itself being used as a weapon for destabilization. That's why this is unprecedented. We have not lived through an era like this before. Trump's defining feature is, in fact, his incoherence. He appears deeply confused very often. Only this week, he accused Norway of controlling the Nobel Peace Prize, and they don't, and he appeared to confuse Norway with Denmark, and they are, I can assure you, separate countries. The fact is, he can't even keep the basic facts right. His statements are contradictory and impulsive, but the machinery of state in the USA is being used to validate his claims. We are living in a period where black is white and right is wrong and everything else is, according to Donald Trump, whatever he thinks it is. And that is why we're living in such a dangerous era. Because confusion has literally become policy. Erratic threats become announcements, and then announcements become...
And there's a reason in Jeremiah 51, the Lord say Babylon had been a golden cup in his hand. It's America that pushed its policies, its way of life, its democracy, its draconian measures throughout the four corners of the earth. And he mentioned, this guy Richard mentioned, how everything has been turned upside down. Well, that's the Isaiah 5. Let me read it. In Isaiah 5 and 20 reads, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. So he's going to make that point. He's going to mention that. And as we listen to these devils and we filter everything they say through the scriptures, because everything that they saying is already written a time ago for our learning. Going back to this again, the reason why the Lord said Babylon the Great had been the golden cup in his hand. It was America that pushed the ways of the world. The elites using America and the state of Israel to push their draconian measures.
Comes strategy, and strategy morphs into coercion at a moment's notice, and coercion is becoming dangerously normalized. And that is the threat that we have to face. Let's just for a moment use Gaza as a symptom here. A peace initiative has been floated. It's called the Border Peace, but it very clearly isn't, because it's all about clearing Gaza of Palestinians. It's a weapon of war still. But there is already a coercive demand being sent out by Trump to other countries, insisting that they join, with a price tag of $1 billion attached. He is claiming that this is how he will deliver world peace, when actually this is all about a straightforward land grab and creating the opportunity for redevelopment potential. This is nothing more than about power and property. The world order has been corrupted to its very core as a consequence. We haven't got political leaders who are now worried about delivering peace or prosperity or healthcare or education or whatever else it is that people want. They're just looking after their own commercial interests. And this is what we're going to see time and again right now. The moving threat is the problem, and the threats do not stop. Each one is more extreme. Each one is less coherent, and yet each is backed by US state spokespeople and agencies, plus the armed forces, so far. The only certainty is that if Donald Trump was a Russian asset, this is what he would do. I don't know he is a Russian asset. Nobody is for sure. But the fact is that if he were, he would be doing nothing different from what he is doing now. The consequences are potential strategic collapse in the West. And of course, he may also be doing something else. He may simply just be trying to hide. The whole reason for his presidency was that he did not want to go to prison, where he should by now be, for the consequences of the insurrection that he's helped stage on 6th January 2021. But because he managed to persuade the US people that he should be president instead, that conviction hasn't happened. And instead, he's trying to hide other issues from the US people instead. Domestic policy failure, personal scandal and corruption risk, of course, around Epstein. Distraction is therefore being used as a governing method. Crisis creation is being used as political cover, and this is policy in its own right. Confusion runs everywhere because that is what Trump needs to prevent the fact that otherwise...
And this is heavy because this is why I say it's Sirach 30:3. He that teacheth his son grieveth the enemy. Hey, in Revelations 3:18, the Lord has given his men eye salve and a few women out there. The Lord has given us the eye salve to see through this darkness, because it tell you in Isaiah 29, verse 18 and 19, it said the deaf shall hear the words of the book, and the blind shall see out of obscurity, which is out of darkness. That's the Proverbs 29. It reads, where there is no vision, the people perish. So, hey, the Lord giving us, it said the deaf shall hear the words of the book. Well, this is Yahweh Shema Shai. Peter said that the Lord going to stir up our pure mind by way of remembrance. Your pure mind is before you was defiled. And this is why Yahweh Shai said we have to return to him in Matthew 18 as a little child. A little child has to be taught everything. So us returning back to the Lord, hey, this is Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai vexing, grieving the enemy. Because now we see and hear all the confusion. That's the bullshit. And now we tapping back into our spiritual. We tapping into, as we always mention at camp, our power grid. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai is the power source, the power grid. So now the Lord, let us tap back into the power source, the power grid. And now we pointing out all the bullshit of Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed so-called white man, his confusion. And I'm going to get some precepts. I was just thinking about, hey, having an eye salve, hey, and to see and having the ears to hear, man. That's why Yahweh said in Isaiah 43:8, bring forth the blind that have eyes and the deaf that have ears. Because if the Lord ain't dealing with you, you're going to continue to be stuck in confusion, which I'm going to title this lesson. The head of this glorified confusion is Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, the top enemy of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh.
We would all be noticing that the US Congress has passed law that requires him to deliver the whole of the Epstein files by now, and maybe 1% is at present on the table. Whatever it is, the geopolitical conclusion of what is happening is now being forced upon us. He might be trying to hide from the Epstein files, but he is collapsing NATO. It is, in effect, over. There's no point pretending otherwise anymore. Even our mainstream news commentators are now saying it. Gary Gibbon has on Channel 4 News. By the end of this week, the likelihood that there will be anything which looks like NATO is very unlikely. And that is just extraordinary. Something that has existed for 80 years is over. Because the USA is no longer a reliable ally. Europe must face the fact that it is strategically independent now, whether it likes it or not. And that means it must have its own defence policy, its own economics, and its own approach to democracy, all at the same time. And that unity does not exist at present. And in the midst of all of this, Greenland is not a stunt. Greenland signals Trump's territorial ambition. Remember, this is a man who has always defined himself about his ability to create a bigger and bigger property empire. Now, property empire for him means dominating what he calls the Western Hemisphere, the Americas, in other words. This might be because of his own deep-seated paranoia that he could never keep his father happy and his father created the empire that he is now trying to expand. Who knows? The fact is that whatever the reason, Trump is now signalling his contempt for international law, and he is seeking to normalise conquest through coercion. And this, of course, won't stop with Greenland. Canada is vulnerable in the same logic. Steve Bannon has already said so. Mexico is also vulnerable. Why not? There is the threat because of drugs and because of migrants, and others could follow as well. If Trump can't install puppet governments, which is clearly one of his chosen techniques and one that is incredibly common amongst fascist dictators, then he will use the power that Steve Miller, his deputy chief of staff, has talked about, which is that might makes right. That's what the Trump regime, and the word regime is right, by the way, is all about. This is chaos without purpose. We've had chaos before. We know about that. We can live through it. In my lifetime, there have been moments of severe stress, but we haven't had this lack of structure. At the same time, we've never had so much real-time visibility of what is going on. And the problem here is that Trump has actually got no declared enemy. There is no consistent end goal to what he is doing. And that is why I claim, suggest, whichever way you wish to put it, that this is chaos without purpose. There is just an incoherent policy matched to an incoherent enemy list. He admires Russia. He admires authoritarian power. He seems to get on with China, even though the relationship is a bit more remote than that with Putin. But what he definitely does is want to undermine Europe. Perhaps that's because he really recognises that is where the power is. But the point is, he's weakening the very alliances that actually sustained US power for decades and even centuries. The point is, he doesn't know what he's doing. We're back to incoherence again. And this is important because the incoherence suggests that all the ploys that are currently being used by the likes of Prime Minister Keir Starmer in the UK are ridiculous. He wants to do diplomacy, but Trump is no longer in that game. He doesn't want to talk. He wants to threaten and he wants to grab. And this situation can only roll and develop. We are still at the early stage of the sequencing. It's important to remember that. We're not at an end game as yet. We're right at the beginning. And even so, our institutions are already lagging. That is apparent in Europe. That is apparent in the UK. That is apparent in most countries. Delay now is, however, a strategic failure. And our leaders have to get their heads around this. In response, we need three things, and these are perhaps my key messages from this video. First, we need clarity. Second, we need naming. And third, we need countermeasures. And so let's look at those three. Clarity means that we have to talk about what we're defending. If we say we're defending democracy, it must be real democracy. It must not be captured democracy where the wealthy, for example, run countries for their own benefit. Oligarchic power is not democratic. It is just another form of dictatorship, to be blunt. And that is the direction in which far too much of Europe is already heading. We have got problems because of the rise of neoliberal power that has already been supplanting our democracy. If we're going to be defending something, it has to be the rights of people, and that is what democracy is meant to be about. And not just the rights of people to put a ballot paper in a box every now and again, but civil rights, human rights, legal rights, the rule of law, the right to healthcare, the right to education, the right to a job, the right to be protected from climate change, and more. That's what we have to be defending our people from. Our leaders have to say that. They must be defending this very real form of democracy, or they're not going to get the coherence around the defence strategy they need. And we must be defending economies. That's important because people need livelihoods and there must be work for all. But again, I stress the point, they cannot be doing this if they say they are going to defend the economic structures that now exist, because they have failed us. Neoliberalism is dead in the water. It's gone. It has no further ideas as to what it can do to deliver well-being for people. So we need an economic system that delivers for everyone. And that means everyone and not just the wealthy. This must be an economy not just for rentiers and oligarchs, but for literally everyone, wherever they are in society. And finally, we must defend peace, but it must be peace without fascism, which is why we must name the enemy. Peace in Europe cannot include authoritarian sabotage either, which is why we must also name the enemy within. If Hungary is a fascist state, and it very often looks like it, then it must be named as such. Democracies must set boundaries and fascism must be drawn outside them. Appeasement.
And for the people out there that don't know, Trump is not the problem. Trump is actually adding to the solution. Trump is actually adding to prophecy. He's not the problem. The self-proclaimed so-called white man as a nation of people is the problem, but they are a pivotal part of prophecy.
Is not diplomacy, in other words, and calling out what we're opposing is an essential component of the peace that we're looking at. Without clarity, we cannot act. Confusion will destroy solidarity. It will destroy legitimacy. Confusion creates the space for opportunism, and politics requires a shared story of purpose. That's precisely what I've been talking about. And politicians must choose what side they're on. If they serve neoliberal interests, they will converge with the US destination. That is inevitable. Where Donald Trump has got to is the obvious endgame of neoliberalism. That destination is corrupt and represents coercion. We need a new political framework, and we need it urgently, and we need to be clear what it is. A politics of care is not optional now as a result. We need politics organised around common interests. Care means dignity, wealth, security and trust. The last word being particularly important, and what is being lost in the world right now. Care is the opposite of authoritarian cruelty. It is the basis for democratic legitimacy. And that means Trump must be called out. We must stop pretending.
Now, to show you real quick how beautiful these prophecies is, when you go to Isaiah 24, reading this point right here, verse 10. The city of confusion is broken down. Every house is shut up that no man may come in. Why is the Lord titling this the city of confusion? Because the prophecy go back to the self-proclaimed so-called white man in Genesis 3 and 14. Thus shall he eat all the days of his life. Thus is confusion. There was Isaiah 47 and 1 that reads, come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Talking about America, Babylon the Great. So I want to show you something. When you go to Isaiah 24 in the blue letter, let's get this word confusion here. So here's the word confusion, H8414, which is 144 mixed together. Look at this, right? Confusion. It say, let's play the word.
Strong's H8414, tohu, tohu.
So it say here, formlessness, confusion, unreality, emptiness, formlessness. It say of primeval earth, nothingness, empty space. Look, that which is empty or unreal, of idols, wasteland, wilderness of solitary places. That's America, a solitary place. Look at this, place of chaos. That's America, Babylon the Great. Or anywhere around the world where the so-called white man go at, he brings confusion. Look at that, place of chaos, man. Confusion, without form, wilderness, nothing, empty place, waste. Look at strong definition. Look, to lie and waste. To lie, waste, a desolation. That's going to be America when the missiles hit this place. When them warheads hit this place. Look, to lie, waste, desert, a wasteless thing. In vain, confusion, empty place, without form, nothing, not, vain, vanity, waste, wilderness. So look, this confusion, right? Place of chaos. Job 10 and 21. Before I go, whence I shall not return, even to the land of darkness and the shadow of death, a land of darkness as darkness itself, and of the shadow of death without any order, and where the light is as darkness. I was thinking about this one too. 2 Corinthians, right? Because it said, let me go back to it real quick. It said, to lie waste, desolation, confusion, right? The point I want to make right here. That which is empty or unreal of idols. It's a empty or unreal, right? Formlessness, confusion, unreality. So I was thinking about this. 2 Corinthians 10 and 5. It reads, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalted itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Mashiach. Hold on. Now they say casting down imaginations, right? Here's another one. Let me go back to the blue letter to get this one. In Psalms, Asaph said, Lord, when thou awakest, thou shalt despise that image. Let me show you how these link together, that word confusion in Isaiah 24 with Psalm 73 and 20. Look at this. So it reads, Psalm 73 and 20, as a dream when one awaketh, so, O Lord, when thou awakest, thou shalt despise your image. The image is this system, right? The revived Roman Empire. Revelation 13 talks about the 7-head, 10-horn beast. It's the Edomite system. Look at this. So when you go to this word here, image, right? H6754. It got images. It's of tumors, mice, heathen gods, image, likeness, or resemblance, mere empty image. Same thing except for confusion. Look at this. It's a vain show, right? Look, illusion, resemblance, hence a representative figure, especially an idol, image, vain show. It's an illusion. So confusion. Esau Edom, as the big brother Yash did it lesson, that was fire, man. Look, especially an idol, image, vain show. So lock you for screen a little. I'm a little loud because I'm excited. Listen, man. Hey, the Lord is destroying it. The Lord said when he awake, he going to despise his image. The system of the so-called white man. His last great white hope, man. Hey, and this is why I tell you in Job. This is Job. Hey, these devils is through, man. Job 11 and 20. But the eyes of the wicked shall fail, and they shall not escape, and their hope shall be as the giving up of the ghost. Let's go back to the finished video. Fire,
this is
man.
normal politics. We must stop laundering what he is doing as if it is populism. We must stop treating it as theatre. This is power being remade by Trump in the form of coercion, and we have to say so. We have to say democracy is over in the USA. The USA is no longer functioning as any form of democracy. It is a dictatorship. And I'm not the only person saying that. Robert Reich is in the USA, and I admire his courage for doing so. Enforcement bodies are being used as political weapons. People are calling them Gestapo-like, and I think that is justified. And we have to say these things openly, and we need to hear our leaders saying this, because this is essential. If we're going to maintain the principles of democracy, we have to name those who are undermining them, and the USA is. You cannot fight for what you refuse to name. If you do not name the enemy, you cannot mobilize, you cannot build alliances, and you cannot create public consent for action. This is absolutely key. And then, once we've done these two things, we've identified what we want and we've named the enemy, we must put the countermeasures in place. Europe and its allies must act as if abandonment is real. Let's get on with it. Let's face facts. NATO is over. The US has gone. We can't depend upon them anymore. Whatever we once thought, the USA is no longer there. Our defence planning must change. Our trade planning must change. Our intelligence systems must change. Our dependence upon US companies must change. Our dependence upon US technology must change. Our institutional planning must change. Everything is different. And we must recognise the fact that the cost of this will be significant. This will not be painless either. If we are to recognise that the rule of law is collapsing, and we want to put in its place worldwide at least a functioning European system, coupled, of course, with countries, and many countries around the world want to maintain this system, including old allies like Canada, Australia and New Zealand, but also Japan and India, and most countries in Africa, and a lot of countries in South America, then if we want to do those things, we have to bear the cost of doing it. I'm afraid to say that means that we must recognise that there is going to be a significant period of economic pain as a consequence. If we are to rebuild value, we must invest in it, and that investment will have a cost. In the meantime, disruption is virtually guaranteed. I'm sorry, this is going to be deeply uncomfortable. Because even without a physical war, economic warfare, which is the most likely outcome of the disputes that we're currently facing, at least I hope that's the most likely outcome of the disputes we're currently facing, is still brutal. Trade war is still war by any other name. Supply chains will fracture, inflation risks will arise, investment will stall under uncertainty. There will be unemployment unless governments act. This moment feels like July or August 1939. The atmosphere around us is familiar. Life is going on at the moment, but the tempo of change is faster. And I don't expect there to be a phony war once everything collapses, which it could do literally within days, so fast is the process of change at present. Something horrible feels terribly close right now. The point is, we need to manage that next stage. So, let's have some conclusions. The first one is that we must stop comforting ourselves. This is not a temporary turbulence. We are now in for an era when there is regime change. There has been in the USA. It's unlikely to be restored as a democratic power for a long time to come. There is a global fracture in the international order, and we must plan accordingly. Secondly, Europe must grow up fast. Strategic independence is now essential, and defence capability is necessary, whilst our combined industrial capability has to be coordinated to deliver for the common good of European countries above all else, whilst democratic legitimacy must be reinforced. And in many countries it's not good enough at present, and therefore we have to literally, as I say, grow up fast. Smell the coffee, literally.
Hey, what did old boy say in Purple Rain? He said the kid is in rare form tonight. Hey, Esau Edom, the self-proclaimed so-called white man, is a kid, man, and they in rare form. The scripture tell you, man, woe to them when the kings are children, man, who eat in the morning. Esau Edom, the self-proclaimed so-called white man, he's a child, man. Hey, hey, these Edomites in rare form, man. Hey, they got to revert back to the origin, man. What is that? Proverbs. Hey, matter of fact, let's get Job first. Because in Job, it talks about them, how their portion is cursed in the earth. Let me read this. This is Job 24. In verse 18. He is swift as the waters, their portion is cursed in the earth. He beholdeth not the way of the vineyard. Now let's say he is swift, right? How Alexander conquered in the beginning, he was swift with his conquer. When you go read 1 Maccabees 1, this is Proverbs 20 and 21. An inheritance may be gotten hastily, which is swift at the beginning, but the end thereof shall not be blessed. Why? Because their portion is cursed in the earth, so they will not be blessed. When you go to Genesis 3, this is Genesis 3 and 14, it reads, and Yahweh power said unto the serpent, because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle and above every beast of the field. So among all the nations, the self-proclaimed so-called white man is cursed over all nations. Upon thy belly shall thou go, and dust, meaning on your belly, meaning you the basis of men, you the lowest, and dust shall thou eat all the days of thy life. So this dust is a confusion. Everywhere the so-called white man go at, he brings confusion. Let's get Job 21. This is Job 21. Talking about these Edomites. 13 reads, they spend their days in wealth, and in a moment go down to the grave. Therefore they say unto God, depart from us, for we desire not the knowledge of thy ways. What is the Almighty that we should serve him? And what profit shall we have if we pray unto him? Lo, their good is not in their hand. The counsel of the wicked is far from me. How often is the counsel of the wicked put out? And how often, this is the abbreviation of the word often, and how oft cometh their destruction upon them? God distributeth sorrows in his anger. See, it said God distributeth sorrows in his anger. To them, they got the same portion. That's why it's going to go into it here. These are as stubble before the wind, and as chaff that the storm careth away. God laid up his iniquity for his children. He rewardeth him, and he shall know it. His eyes shall see his destruction, and he shall drink of the wrath of the Almighty. Remember, it said, and the Lord, it said, God distributeth sorrows in his anger. His eyes shall see his destruction, and shall drink of the wrath of the Almighty. For what pleasure have he in his house after him, when the number of his months is cut off in the midst? That's like having a heart attack out of the blue, out of nowhere. That's how the Lord cut the so-called white man off. Shall any teach God knowledge, seeing he judgeth those on high? And who is on high right now? It tell you in Psalm 49, he that is in honor. He that is in honor is like the beast that perish. It said, he that is in honor and understandeth not is like the beast that perish. Who's in honor right now? Who is those that's on high? It's the elites. And as a nation of people, the so-called white people, with generational wealth and white privilege. Look, that's why it said up here, the Lord distributive their sorrows and anger. Look, verse 23, one died for his full strength, being woefully at ease and quiet. And I always mention Henry Kissinger, Evelyn Rothschild, David Rockefeller, Jacob Rothschild. They all passed. It said one died in his full strength, being woefully at ease and quiet. They was comfortable because they controlled the trillions and billions. They control all the resources. The so-called white man, the elites, his breasts are full of milk and his bones are moistened with marrow. Another died from bitterness of his soul. That's these so-called white people that's losing. They losing generational wealth and white privilege. It don't apply to them anymore. And another died from bitterness of his soul and never eat it with pleasure. Look, this is the Lord distributing that same Edomite wicked energy amongst all of them. They shall lie down alike in the dust, and the worm shall cover them. They shall lie down alike in the dust. The Lord said in Genesis 3 and 14, everywhere they go at, they bring confusion. It said, dust should thou eat all the days of thy life. Snakes don't eat dust. So in Genesis 3 and 14, ain't talking about no damn snake eating no dust. What is it talking about? The confusion that the so-called white man brings. As Big Brother Yasha going into it. How you gonna give the alphabet community equal to act rights when this law say, according to the Lord, they supposed to be put down for that? Women that commit adultery supposed to be put down for that. But you give them benefits. A woman get to take most of the man's earnings. You got all these women that's with these NBA players, these rappers, actors, these athletes. They ain't what they want in the gym. They want on the football field working out and practicing, but they want half of these men's shit. And Esau give it to them. That's confusion, man. for the government to say we own your children. The state own your children. So if your child if you got a daughter that want to be a dude and you got a son that want to be a girl, it's okay. And they'll pay for the procedures. Oh, your mom and your father, they strict on you, they want to whoop you. We'll take you and put you in another home that will love you. This is confusion, man. Confusion. The scripture tell you that, hey, if it's a divorce, the woman leave with nothing, man. She leave with nothing. Nothing. So for this chick, Janet Jackson, to marry this dude, this billionaire, stay with him 5 years, get a kid, just so she can get the $100 million that he saved. $500 million he gave her. And she left with a child. So now she get alimony or child support. Come on, man. That's confusion. To be eating shrimp, crab, pork, and lobster, catfish, clams, scallops, octopus, eel, shark, what it says, fin soup. That's confusion, man. Guess what? They shall lie down alike in the dust, and the worms shall cover them, man. See? Let's finish this video.
Listen to the mood music of the people of Europe and deliver the peace that they want. Thirdly, we have to recognise that neoliberalism is now a security risk. It is our economic order that has created the weaknesses that Trump is now exploiting. Inequality already weakened democracy. He just saw the crack and pushed himself into it. Austerity has undermined resilience, and that's what fascists are exploiting. Oligarchy has already invited authoritarianism, and he is there waiting in line, and there will be others after him if he were to go. What we need to say is that none of these are acceptable, and that care is an alternative and an essential economic and political necessity. So, my fourth conclusion, we must build democratic solidarity. We need to build alliances around democratic values. We really need to say what we mean and mean what we say, and go against the fascist enablers, wherever they come from, including within Europe. We need to strengthen our public institutions. We need to put a legitimacy back into the democratic state, because people need defence, and only the democratic state can really provide it in the way that they desire. Let's be clear, and this is my final conclusion. This is the test of our time. The era of comfort is over. I'm sorry to say it. I don't want to say this. I don't want to feel like this. I don't want to face the future that is obviously coming our way. But I have to talk about reality. And the reality is that whatever we knew, we will not know again, at least in my lifetime. We are facing chaos. We are facing disruption. We are facing rebuilding. And in all of that, there is a message of hope, because we could deliver something better. That was what happened after World War II in particular. We rebuilt better. The era of political economy is back. The era of care is available. If we reject cruelty, we have to choose. We have to choose where we're going. Europe has to choose where it's going. Europe's allies, and I've already mentioned some of them, they exist around the world, have to choose whether to come with us or not, whether to succumb to Trump or not, whether to succumb to Putin or China or not. We could build back better, to use a phrase that somebody else once put into the common language. This is our opportunity. For all my doom and gloom, we could actually be looking at the prospect, when we get through this era, and we will, that we could have a better world, the world we want, the world where care.
See what he say? This is our opportunity. Let's go back. Look at this.
Is that whatever we knew, we will not know again, at least in my lifetime. We are facing chaos. We are facing disruption. We are facing...
See? He said we are facing chaos. That was one of the words for confusion. It said place of chaos. Hold on. Let me go back and show it to you. Just double back. Isaiah 24:10. See? Can't make this up, man. Confusion. Look, place of chaos. Right there. See it? Oh, man, this is cold. Hold on.
Is that
run
whatever
it
we
back.
knew, we will not know again, at least in my lifetime. We are facing chaos. We are facing disruption. We are facing
We are
rebuilding.
facing chaos. We
And
are
in all
facing
of that, there is a
disruption.
message of hope, because we could deliver something better.
Look, he talking about a message of hope. I just read to you Job 11:20. There is no hope for the so-called white man. Hold on.
Face
Go
the
back a few
future that
ticks.
is obviously coming our way. But I have to talk about reality. And the reality
have to talk about
is
reality.
that whatever we knew, we will not know again, at least in my lifetime. We are facing chaos. We are facing disruption. We are facing rebuilding. And in all of that,
See? He said we are facing rebuilding. You can't rebuild without the elites. Where you gonna get the funds from?
is a message of hope, because we could deliver something better.
The message of hope.
That was what happened
Because
after
we
World
could
War
deliver
II in
something
particular.
better.
We rebuilt better. The era of political economy is back. The era of care is available if we reject cruelty.
Do you see what the devil said? The era of care is available. This is Jeremiah 51. It's over for you, E. In verse 7, Babylon had been the golden cup in Yahweh's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her, take balm for her pain, which that's that QE, quantitative ease, and print more money. They don't have no gold to back it. If so be, she may be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her and let us go everyone to his own country. For her judgment reacheth unto heaven and is lifted up even to the skies. Listen, there's nothing you can do. And this guy's talking about the era. This nigga talking about the era of
We
rebuilding.
have to choose. We have to choose where we're going. Europe has to choose where it's going. Europe's allies, and I've already mentioned some of them, they exist around the world, have to choose whether to come with us or not, whether to succumb to Trump or not, whether to succumb to Putin or China or not. We could build back better, to use a phrase that somebody else once put into the common language. This is our opportunity. For all my doom and gloom, we could actually be looking at the prospect when we get.
This man said through the doom and gloom, we could be looking for prospect. Man. Second Ezra. Oh, man, this is crazy. These Edomites is crazy, man. Second Ezra 7. Where is it? This devil is crazy. Oh, hold on. I forget where it's at. Right here, 2nd Ezra 7:43. But the day of doom shall be the end of this time, and the beginning of the immortality for to come, wherein corruption is past, and temperance is at an end, and fidelity is cut off. Righteousness is grown, and truth is sprung up. Yeah. There shall no man be able to save him that is destroyed, nor oppress him that have gotten the victory. Hey, in Psalms 49, which I quoted earlier, these Edomites is through, man. Psalms 49 and 6. They that trust in their wealth and boast themselves in the multitude of their riches, none of them can by any means redeem his brother, nor give to God a ransom for him. Verse 10. For he seeth that wise men die, likewise the fool and the brutish person perish, and leave their wealth to others. The inward thoughts is that their houses shall continue forever. We're going to rebuild better. And their dwelling place to all generation, they call their land after their own names. Nevertheless, man being in honor, which is the so-called white man, abideth not. He is like the beasts that perish. This their way is their folly. Yet their posterity approve their sayings. The end of this, the Lord said, man that is in honor and understandeth not is like the beasts that perish, man. Ain't no building back nothing better, man. Hey, what they say? Isaiah 14-21. Yeah, these Edomites is hilarious, man. It reads, prepare slaughter for his children, for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. For I will rise up against them, saith Yahweh of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name and remnant and son. What name? The Edomites. And nephew, saith Yahweh. So he talking about rebuilding. The Lord say, ain't no rebuilding, man.
Through this era, and we will, that we could have a better world, the world we want, the world where care really matters. Cling to that hope, because there's not much else to cling to right now in an age of such confusion. Let us know what you think. Let us have a comment. We do read them. We do look at them. We do summarise them. We sense your mood. And there's a poll down below. Give us a vote. Thanks for watching. We really appreciate you doing so. If you liked this video, please do literally click the like button down below. Please also think about subscribing to this channel. YouTube get the message from you doing so that this channel is working for people. And if they get that message, they put this video in front of other people, and that helps our growth and to get this message out. So we'd really appreciate it if you did both those things. There's a couple of other things we'd appreciate as well. One is that if you click the more button below, you will see there's a link.
So yeah, man. Esau through, man. So this is Job 24 and 23. Job 24 and 21. He evil entreateth the barren that beareth not, and doeth not good to the widow. He draweth also the mighty with his power, which is that sword. That's Esau. That's the so-called white man's power, his sword. He riseth up, and no man is sure of life. And none of the other nations, was sure of life. The only way they got a little bit of something, they had to cleave to the so-called white man. And that was through the force of the sword, man. Alexander conquered the known world, man. Though it be given him to be in safety, whereon he resteth, yet his eyes are upon their ways. They are exalted for a little while, but are gone and brought low. They are taken out of the way as all other, and cut off as the tops of the ears of corn. Now, when I was reading in the blue letter, the Isaiah 24 and 10, right, for the word confusion, right, when you go to this, I'm sorry, clicked on the wrong thing. Hold on here. When I went to this and clicked on this confusion, let me show you what scripture gave me on the bottom of Isaiah 24 and 10. Look at this, which stood out to me. Isaiah 29 and 21. Right next to Isaiah 21 and 10. Next to Isaiah 24 and 10 about the city of confusion is broken down, right? So the same H84:14 is in Isaiah 29 and 21 for the word not. Because one of the words that was in there for confusion is not, right? So I'm going to go to this. Isaiah 29. I've been reading this a lot lately, man. Isaiah 29 and 18. And this is the point I want to make dealing with the hopeful elect. We're not in that confused state anymore. And in that day shall the deaf hear the words of the book, and the eyes of the blind shall see out of obscurity and out of darkness. The meek also shall increase their joy in Yahweh, and the poor among men shall rejoice in the Holy One of Israel. So once the elect be raised up, that means the so-called white man goes down. Look at this, verse 20. For the terrible one is brought to naught. And that word not is H84:14 as the word confusion. So they go back to the Job 24. They shall sit down alike in the dust. Heavy, man. For the terrible one is brought to naught, which going back to, they said the terrible one is brought to confusion. Because the same word for confusion, H84:14. And the scorner is consumed. It said in Job 24, the worm shall feed on them. And all that watch for iniquity are cut off. That make a man an offender for a word, and lay snap for him that reprove in the gate, and turn aside the just for a thing of not. They're trying to turn aside the just to confusion, but it ain't going to work. They was just saying in Matthew 24, least. It say you got the 2 Corinthians 2:11. Least Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices, right? Then the one in Matthew 24, it said, if it were possible, he should deceive the very elect through his confusion, but it ain't gonna work. Show you how that H84:14 applies to the word not, as it did to the word confusion in Isaiah 24:10. This is heavy, man. So I want to make these points, right? Because the Lord has raised up the remnant out of that confusion. And I got a few precepts. This is this is Ephesians first. Ephesians 2:1. And you have he quickened. Yahweh shall quicken the remnant men and them few women, man. And we know it's gonna be more women get saved than men. But it's gonna be less women get saved than the women that's gonna be destroyed. And you have he quickened, who were dead in trespasses and sins, where in time past ye walked according to the course of this world, which is what? Confusion. According to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now worketh in the children of disobedience, among whom we all had our conversation in time past in the lusts of the flesh, fulfilling the desires of the flesh and of the mind, and were by nature the children of wrath, even as others. So we was confused too for a while. Here's another one. Colossians 3:5. Mortify therefore your members, which are upon the earth, fornication, uncleanness, inordinate affections. Now I said we would sometimes copy things in Ephesians 2, which we learned from the so-called white man. Right? We got to go through his school systems. Right? The Lord said we got to go to the end for the one of all things. So we had to learn his ways. But then the Lord removed that confusion from you. Mortify therefore your members, which are these, upon the earth, which are upon the earth, fornication, uncleanness, inordinate affection, evil concupiscence, and covetousness, which is idolatry. And if you don't know what these words is, go look them up. For which things sake the wrath of God cometh on the children of disobedience, in the which ye also walked sometime when ye lived in them. But now ye also put off all these: anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy communication out of your mouth. And this ain't talking about using rude speech or cussing, as the world called it. It's called other philosophies, like that Pan-Africanism, that Egyptology. All that is filthy communication. Lie not one to another, seeing that ye have put off the old man with his deeds, or the old woman, and have put on the new man and the new woman, which is renewed in knowledge after the image of him that created him. Here's another one. Titus 3. We was there, man. We was confused. Titus 3:5. For we ourselves also were sometimes foolish, disobedient, deceived, serving divers lusts and pleasures, living in malice and envy, hateful, and hating one another. But after that, the kindness and love of God and our Savior toward man appeared, not by works of righteousness, which we have done, but according to his mercy he saved us by the washing of regeneration and renewing of the Holy Spirit. Listen, man. Now, you got Proverbs. So that confusion, Lord willing, it's gone and it stay gone, man. Proverbs 21:16. The man or woman that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. See? And then I thought about this one. Was that Proverbs 29:18, where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keepeth the law, happy is he. Hey, these devils, is hurt, man. They hurting. Close with this. Ecclesiastes 30:3. He that teacheth his son grieveth the enemy, and before his friends he shall rejoice of him. So the Lord, let me go back. Where is it?
But actually,
Let's play this
we're
again.
looking at the prospect, when we get through this era, and we will, that we could have a better world, the world we want, the world where care really matters. Cling to that hope, because there's not much else to cling to right now in an age of such confusion. Let us
That's what I want to see right there. That one word.
cling to that hope, because there's not much else to cling to right now in an age of such confusion.
Right there. Oh, caught it. Call out Yahweh Shema Shai. Age of such confusion. I might have to title the lesson that, man. Age of such confusion. The Lord is edifying. I'm going to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rekah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles, elder bishops, and elders of great millstone who rule well, who teach well, who are the apostles and elders of all of Israel, whether accepted or not. In a sincere salutation to all that can believe in this truth and pushing this truth to the four winds of the earth. The entire world shedding light to the hopeful elect. Shalom to the outwealth who will listen llearning. If you sisters will listen learning throughout tuning in, may Yahweh Bashim Shai continue to bless you in your houses. May the blessing of election be upon your houses. Till next time, I say Shalom, Wa Abba.
Let us know what you think.